Hello, my friends. It's Manny Rodriguez coming back at you with another episode of Deep True Crime. In this episode, we're going to talk about some of the top stories around true crime that are going on today. And so if you're new to my channel and that is what you like to stay on top of, you're going to want to hit that subscribe button. That way you get notified when I do upload or even go live, especially if you like to stay on top of those things. I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me today. And I want to share with you, yes, this live can be a little 30, 45 minutes with all the updates. But then I will also go back and separate each story. That way you're only getting the stories, if that's the particular story you want to talk about or hear about. So please, thank you. Welcome to my channel. So happy that you have decided to stop by on your way over, wherever you're going. And so today we got a few things in the news that we're gonna wanna update you on. Okay, we're gonna continue the Gabby Petito update. I think that is key until we find Brian. But speaking of the Gabby Petito, when we get to that fourth one down, this is why I do this, to make people aware of what goes on out there. It's sad, that people are capable of some of these things, period. And so I want to share exactly that, what it is that you should be, being aware of, because it's easy to trust, if you don't really know, right? It's easy to trust if you really don't know who to trust. And so that's exactly why I do this, because I want to share with you some of the things that are going on out there. To me, it's key. Okay? To me, it's key that you know what's going on out there to help you be aware, be alert, and sometimes you have to be skeptical about what you hear and what you see. That's the purpose of Deep True Crime, to let you know what goes on out there to help you be alert. Be alert. Of course, sure, there's a lot of people you can trust, but unfortunately there are people you cannot trust when it comes to heinous crimes as well. And so I want to share with you the Gabby Petito update. I want to share with you the Robert Durst. He gets life. And if you know him, he was a longtime actor. Yesterday we talked about the Alex Murdaugh, and I talked about how he is kind of not really a suspect when it came to his wife and son's death. He is a person of interest on that. And I wanted to continue on that because that was in the news. And I want to share another heinous act by a control freak who was very violent to his wife. And he sets her on fire while she's live streaming. Just heartbreaking. And we're going to talk about that because he is convicted and he gets the death penalty. And so we're going to hit on a few of those things. Thank you for being a part of this today. So let's go ahead and dive into it. First thing I want to talk about is the Gabby Petito update, of course. So I wanted to share this because it came across my desk. Former prosecutor reveals details of how Gabby Petito's body was found after analyzing crime scene footage. And so they were sharing because obviously, the Teton County coroner, he released the autopsy of Gabby Petito. And so, of course, more details are coming out of how she was found. And so Dr. Brent Blue, he revealed that her cause of death was strangulation. And he also shared that her body had been out in the wilderness for 3 to 4 weeks before she was found. And so due to the statutes in Wyoming, he couldn't say more, right? It's an ongoing investigation, so he needs to be tight-lipped about this. And so I wanted to kind of update a little more of what came out. Okay, the helicopter footage of the Gabby Petito, the crime scene was analyzed. And so Kurt Morgan longtime Salt Lake County prosecutor, he analyzed that footage and he was sharing a little of it. Okay, and so he said, one of the things I've been seeing in this story is a history of these individuals getting into fights, and she was attacked. And she attacked him. And this is something that he's heard. So he says, I don't see that here. Meaning that he doesn't see that she attacks him and why this would have occurred. Because some people who are taking Brian's side are kind of saying she started this thing. So he's kind of debunking this. I don't see that here. I don't see where they got into a fight and she attacks him. And he says, all I see is one individual who suffered the damage and no evidence of injury created by her. Now, this is, of course, on the crime scene. And so he said he did not notice marks on the ground that might indicate that Petito was fighting her attacker. And so I think this is key because a lot of stuff has been going on, been talked about. Okay? So at least someone's there to say it does not look like she started this fight that may have caused this. Right? So he's kind of debunking that. And so I think that is key. And so Morgan claimed that the scene suggests that Petito's killer acted quickly and did not stick around. Acted quickly and was gone. Okay? This was quick. This was not sitting here for 5 or 6 hours trying to figure out how to conceal a crime. According to Morgan, he's saying that it happened and Petito's boyfriend was gone. And so, as we know, he remains a person of interest. We're going to hit on that person of interest, P.O.I, a little more as well in another case here shortly. And so, he's only facing charges for allegedly using her bank card without authorization. Why, granted, the article says allegedly because he hasn't been convicted. Probably it's the right thing to say, to do. And so he says, Morgan continues and says, because Petito was strangled, there could be fingerprints or DNA at the scene. And those things I would have to look at very, very carefully as a prosecutor. Okay? He did, Dr. Blue, in his press conference, did confirm that there was DNA that was taken from Petito's body, but he did not speak on any possible suspects. He literally kept running away from, because John Walsh asked that question twice. Do you think that Brian had it? He kind of phrased it a second time. Do you think that Brian Laundrie is the one that's guilty? Like, in your mind, is there any doubt that Brian Laundrie? I cannot comment on that. And so Brian Laundrie's parents, according to Gabby Petito's mom, I'll share that with you. She believes that Brian Laundrie's parents are revealing big clue that he's still alive. This is according to now, who doesn't think that he's still alive? If he was dead, I would think they would have found him by now. I would think. So I think everyone thinks this, but here's what they say about it, why they believe that they know what's going on. Let's see here. And they share Petito's family has now criticized Laundrie's parents for what they consider a failure to cooperate with the case. And so her mother, Nicole, that shares, they know most of the information. I believe that. I don't know why they're doing this to us. I feel like we need to just know at this point. Like, they know stuff that they're not sharing. Yes, I totally agree that the Laundrie parents know stuff that they're not sharing. Man, that's so obvious they know stuff that they're not sharing, right? I mean, it's so obvious in that particular case. And so now this is thought to refer to claims that the Laundrie family has provided insufficient information about Brian Dirty Laundrie. And so this, feeds into the accusations that Brian Laundrie may have received assistance with his disappearance. Yep. I totally agree. And I've been saying that. I truly believe. Now, again, until we get all the facts, a lot of this is speculation. What they're sharing is speculation. What I'm sharing, a lot of speculation. It's how I feel. I think this is key. So Gabby's dad even says, if they do know something and they're withholding that and they don't want to let us know, it's cruel. Well, obviously these people are not caring at this time. They're not caring. Sure, they do believe that it's tragic that something like this would happen to her, but it's their son they're protecting. They're going to continue to protect. I truly don't think they care to share with everyone what they do know. At this stage, though, they would probably be facing some criminal actions against them. Right? I truly believe that. I truly believe that. And so, it's definitely bad. It's bad. And we got to figure out what's going on. But the only way to actually do that is Brian to come forward. Now you got cadaver dogs chasing him, looking for him. Dog the bounty hunter's probably still out there somewhere. I think he said he's back on the search. And so, truth is, at the end of the day, where is Brian? Right? Where is Brian? That's the true story. That's what we want to know. Where is Brian Laundrie? So next topic that we want to talk about is something that's been in the news for a long time. We're talking years. And truth is, if it wasn't for the HBO, the jinx, we don't know if he would have been caught. We do not know if Robert Durst would have been caught. And so Robert Durst, he's sentenced to life for the killing of his friend back in 2000. Now he is said to have killed 3 people, but he's sentenced to life in prison for murdering his friend Susan Berman. And so Robert Durst, the real estate heir, suspected in a string of killings over nearly 4 decades, was sentenced to life in prison without parole for murdering his friend and confidant, because they were really close, Susan Berman. And Susan, obviously taken way too soon, and of course a very sad story in and of itself. And so jury convicted this guy. He's 78 years old. They convicted him of first-degree murder, and he's going to get life. Now, granted, life is not going to be too much longer. He's already up there in age, and so he most likely doesn't have 20 more years. So now, see, prosecutors argued that Durst had shot Berman at point blank range in her home to prevent her from telling police what she knew about the 1982 disappearance of his wife, Kathy McCormick Durst. That's what he was originally because she disappeared, and of course he knew something. And so, but they had enough evidence about this one, okay? But he kind of throws himself under the bus. When they're doing this documentary, HBO, The Jinx, he says too much. He says too much on himself. Let's go ahead and I'm going to play this for you. This was from the documentary, The Jinx. It was an HBO show. And I hope I'm able to play this because I'm going to play this. 1 second.
Or maybe this is the bathroom.
Yeah, that's...
You're right, this is the bathroom.
Okay, so he's looking for a bathroom. And the producer part of, or the part of the team, the producing team, or they already have them all mic'd up, right? So Robert, also known as Bob is short for Robert, his microphone continues to record while he's in the bathroom. I don't think they did this intentionally, but they didn't stop it. Listen to this. It's damning evidence against himself. Okay? Listen to this.
There it is. You're caught.
Notice that he says, there it is, you're caught. He's pretty much talking to himself now.
Or maybe this is the bathroom.
Yeah, that's...
You're right. This is the bathroom. There it is. You're caught. You're right, of course. But you can't imagine. What's in the house? Oh, I want this. Disaster. Right. Listen. I'm having difficulty with the question. What the hell did I do? Kill them all, of course.
Did you hear that right there? He said, what the heck did I do? I'm not going to curse. And he said, right there, killed them all, of course. And there was 3 of them. There was 3 of them that he was convicted of killing, or that he was accused of killing. So let's finish this out. Pretty eerie, huh? So The Jinx was a documentary, an HBO documentary on this. And basically The Jinx was a documentary to kind of investigate the 1982 unsolved, disappearance of his wife, and then the 2000 execution style killing of writer Susan Berman, who he was ultimately now convicted of. And a year later, in 2001, the death and dismemberment of Durst's neighbor, Morris Black. This was in Texas. And so he was thought to have something to do with all 3 of these. And so HBO was doing a documentary on this, around this whole thing. And so now he was suspected in the involvement of that. And then then actually after this Jinx, that kind of made it even harder for him to be innocent, because he actually did go to court. He was tried previously and he was off. He was found not guilty. He was found not guilty of this. And so it was hard to prove that he was especially after being not guilty of, or at least getting away with it. So you would imagine that they would have probably thought this would even be harder, but no, this time they actually got him. This time they got him. This time, and he gets life in prison. Do you think that he did it? I outside of the court, I definitely think that this has been ongoing for so long, and they had people, they had evidence, they had stuff. So obviously, he was not convicted in the first one of, I want to say, of the disappearance, but now they have him more on that. And so that is in the news this week for sure. So I want to hit on this Alex Murdaugh person of interest. I kind of hit on this yesterday a bit about that, when I was talking about him being arrested, because he was just arrested for, kind of keeping the funds, illegal use of funds and insurance fraud on his housekeeper, longtime housekeeper. And so he was arrested for it, but now more is in the news. So I definitely wanted to kind of continue where I left off in reference to this person of interest. And so now Alex Murdaugh, it's more coming out that he is definitely a person of interest on his kids. Okay, let me share a little here. Where are we at? Change that. Shoot, 11. Gotta already have that up. So here, this is one article. Alex was always a person of interest in his wife's son's double murder. This is his lawyer saying that he was always a person of interest. Well, he did find them late that night after coming home. According to him, he called 911, and even that is skeptical on that whole thing. And so Alex Murdaugh's lawyer does admit that he's always been a person of interest in this. Now, again, that doesn't mean that he is necessarily the suspect, but he's always been a person of interest. There's a lot surrounding this family. Without a shadow of a doubt, there's a lot surrounding this family when it comes to the whole, multiple people being killed and not knowing what's happened to them. And so now his attorney has said, yep, it is true that he has been a person of interest. And so on Thursday, which was yesterday, he was arrested for the second time. He was arrested for the second time in a month. And he had been the one who called 911, I'm reading this, after finding the bullet-riddled bodies of wife Maggie, 52, and 22-year-old son Paul. And so why would he do this? Well, they're saying that that they kind of knew about this misappropriate of funds within his law firm, and that they were going to out him. So again, more is going to come out, but he was just taken away from. He had to resign from the law firm because of stealing from them. And so the South Carolina law enforcement, they have said that from the get-go that Alex was a person of interest in these slayings. And so, more will definitely come out. But this whole story around Alex is it is so messed up in so many ways as to what has happened in a little bit of time. So, as you know, he was in a drug rehab. And right as soon as he got out, that's when they arrested him for the insurance fraud of what I talked about yesterday, if you were on, of the insurance fraud of his longtime housekeeper. And so what we don't know is is there enough proof to go much, much deeper in this? And so, he was arrested on Thursday for stealing more than $4 million from his late housekeeper's insurance settlement, which was supposed to go to her kids. And they too have said, we've got nothing. And so now we don't really know why this is going on, or how much they know about it. And that's where we're left now. That's exactly where we are left with, because it's been a whole world of what is going on. First, his wife and son are killed. His son is in a boating accident right before that son that passed away is in a boating accident earlier before that death, that he was, what all accounts showing is he was guilty of driving that boat super drunk, way over the legal limit, and causing harm, and one person died. And then it was so quick how his family attorney, because this whole family is full of attorneys. That's why they're so well known, and they're known to have a lot of power. They're known to have a lot of power around that. And so when it comes to the wife Maggie and son Paul being killed, they don't have any suspects right now. He's only a person of interest, and that's it. No more than that. And so, you got Paul and you got the boating accident, and then Paul and Maggie's death. Paul was the one that was driving the boat. Then you got Paul and Maggie's death, right? And since those murders in June, he's been fired from his job because Maggie and Paul died in June. He's been fired from his job, which he was also part owner of the family's law firm. He's accused of embezzlement, shot in the head that he created on his own. Okay. And then he had to go to rehab for substance abuse and then arrested twice. And before this Thursday arrest, he was accused, and by the person who did it, but he was accused of hiring a hitman to help him commit suicide so his surviving son could cash in on a $10 million life insurance. So he tried to have himself killed so that the insurance can go to his only surviving child. That's not good. And now he's charged with insurance fraud and filing a false report. Because he called 911 and said, I was shot in the head. I pulled over to fix a tire or something like that. And someone pulled up and said, do you need any help? And then, boom. Come to find out, he actually hired that hitman to do that. There's probably going to be a movie on this one. You can guarantee that. It might be a Lifetime movie, really. And so Alex, he admitted to opioid addiction, and that's why he had to go to rehab. And he has not entered any plea on any of these charges. So that's what we know so far on the Alex Murdaugh person of interest in the death of his wife Maggie and son Paul. So the last story I want to share with you, this story is an unsettling story, and I'll tell you why I did this story. Part of this channel is to make you aware of how bad people can be, and to hopefully help you have your alarm bells on when needed. And sometimes things are going to happen you probably can't even get out of. And this particular case is this is such a sad case. So this man is sentenced to death for setting ex-wife on fire during a live stream. And what she was live streaming on is what in China they have their own version of TikTok. That's what she was live streaming on, was their version of TikTok. And so he was convicted to death. So he's sentenced to death for murdering his ex-wife. He set her on fire while she was live streaming. This is one of the worst things. And when this case went on, he was convicted a couple years ago, and this is what the sentencing was. But when this case was first brought to light, there was a nationwide outrage over domestic violence because, again, the wife was not taken serious. And it kind of makes me think of the Gabby Petito August 12th body cam footage where they were kind of siding, and you can see it, you can even see it on this channel, they were kind of siding with Brian Laundrie. Kind of, siding with her because she did admit, of hitting him barely or something like that. And so now you have this again where, granted, this happened before Gabby Petito, but because it's so fresh in my mind, I saw some similarities between the two. And so she died after he put gasoline on her and set her on fire in September of last year. And she suffered burns on 90% of her body, but she died 2 weeks later. And this was an ex-wife. It wasn't his current wife. But there was a history of violence in this marriage. There was a history of violence towards her. In June of 2020, only months before she was murdered at her father's house, at her father's home, this is where it was like there was so much history of the domestic violence that he did to her. And that's where it's so sad about this whole thing. And so this is also what caused a nationwide outrage over domestic violence. Trying to, it's so easy to try to brush this stuff off. It's so easy to try to brush this stuff off. And so, you never know until after the fact, man, should more have been done? It's never okay to hit anyone, but let alone domestic violence wise, it's cruel. It's cruel. And the court says, this was a quote from the court, his crime was extremely cruel and the social impact was extremely bad. And the court statement was calling for severe punishment with the law. And when this happened, that it actually occurred, this is where it's like everyone needs to be aware that this stuff can happen. This stuff can happen. And, her death triggered an online outcry of let's number one, keep this in the spotlight. Let's know what's going on in these rural communities as well, because that's where they lived in China, in this rural community. And especially in where, in ethnic, when this happens, how do you bring light to this stuff? And especially being that she was a mother of 2 children and she was known for her upbeat post on the rural lifestyle, and she was praised for not using makeup in her videos, which had millions of likes. She was becoming an influencer in China. And here's the thing. China only criminalized domestic violence 5 years ago. 5 years ago. So this wasn't something that this was going on long before they took this serious. And according to a statistic, around 1 in 4 married Chinese women have experienced domestic abuse. And this is according to a 2013 survey by the All China Women's Federation. And according to activists, they say victims' repeated complaints are often not taken seriously by police until it is too late. Because the police were throwing it off as this is a private family matter. Well, you know what? Number one, Men hitting women is cowardly. Women hitting men is cowardly. No need. You're supposed to be loving each other. No need beating on each other. But the anger gets the best of people, and sometimes they don't even know how it got there. And so, here we are again. Well, he won't be doing it again because he's going to be getting the life sentence, the death penalty. And so, we wish that this was prevented, and it wasn't. And now he's getting what he deserves. Now, I don't know if I'm a fan of the death penalty, to be completely honest with you. But I'm not hating the courts for doing it either. To me, it's not my call. But, if you do take a life, what does the Bible say? I am a big believer in the Bible, that's for sure. But I couldn't pull the plug too. I couldn't do it myself. So that's where it's like, I don't even know what side I'm on when it comes to death penalty or spending the rest of your life in prison. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez. Thank you for joining me today. This is Top Stories Around True Crime. And hey, let me know in the comments what you would like me to report on. Whether I'm sharing top stories or covering a case, let me know. I'm glad to update you. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez. I look forward to serving you again. Have an amazing day.